Terry Barber is a best-selling author and founder of Lighthouse Catholic Media. Jesse Romero is a retired law enforcement officer, a former kickboxing champion with a master's degree in theology. And together, they share a passion for evangelization and PhDs in common sense. You're listening to The Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. To join the show, call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
The Vatican's going to put a smile on your face this weekend because, this weekend, there were several canonizations. Yep, priests, martyrs, the mystic nun. They were all proclaimed as new Catholic saints by Pope Francis. I don't know about you, but it's always good to know that the Church Triumphant continues to grow. Also, does this surprise you that only 50% of Americans believe the devil lurks, that the devil exists? 50% of Americans. It's actually a little bit higher amongst blacks. Amongst black Americans, 72% of black Americans believe that the devil exists. And amongst women, it's a little bit higher. 61% of women believe that the devil exists. And amongst party lines, get this is kind of hilarious. I think it's kind of funny. Republicans believe that the devil exists. 65% of Republicans believe versus 55% of Democrats. So according to parties, Republicans believe in the existence of the devil at 65%, while Democrats at 55%. I thought that was kind of funny.
Jesse, let me interrupt you, buddy. I can't let that go. I know it sounds politically incorrect, but I'm going to say it because when you look at the platforms of each, the Democrat and the Republican platforms, Jesse, if you don't believe that God has a role in government, then I would think you wouldn't believe in the devil. So you have to decide on what party says that. I can only tell you it says it in their platform. Okay, continue, brother. I had to bring that up. I don't want to be political. You know what I want? High information Catholics to vote with their Catholic moral conscience.
And it's funny you mentioned that. And this isn't political. This is just being observant. But a while back ago, I went over to the Church of Satan, one of their websites. Mm-hmm. In fact, I can't even tell you which one it was. It was the Michigan... I think it was the Michigan Church. Yep, Michigan Church of Satan. And I found something very interesting, that the Satanic Church in Michigan, they basically, what they believe is progressive thought. Here's what the Detroit chapter of the Church of Satan stands for. It's on their website. Number one, they believe against Michigan's Religious Freedom Restoration Act. So they're against religious freedom. Number two, they're pro-abortion and pro-contraception. Number three, again, this is the Church of Satan in Michigan. They believe in so-called same-sex marriage. Number four, they believe in abortion. And number five, they're demanding that religious symbols not be allowed in the public square. Now, here's something interesting, not to make it political, but just observant. These 5 points that we find in the Church of Satan in Detroit, Michigan, line up exactly with the Democrat Party platform.
It's a coincidence. Folks, also, would you be surprised if you heard that that the martyrs that were canonized, one of them was 14 years old? I was surprised to hear that. And I'm going to ask Jesse to talk a little bit about Joseph, because he was the most inspirational saint that was canonized for me, just personally, because of religious freedom. This took place back in the late 20s in Mexico, and I think Jesse's family has some ties. Jess, can you share the martyr? He's only 14 years old, and his story, because it's inspirational.
Yep, his name is Jose Sanchez del Rio, or Joseph, as Terry said.
Yeah, I call him Joseph.
He was born and raised in a town called Sahuayo, Michoacan, the city of Sahuayo, the state of Michoacan. My parents, they're from the next town over, Michoacan, Puruándiro, Michoacan. You could throw a rock basically from one town to the next. So this little kid, if you watch the movie For Greater Glory that came out a couple of years ago, he was really highlighted in this movie called For Greater Glory. He's that famous actor he was Mauricio Curi. That's the actor from Mexico that played him. He was a young Cristero soldier, and basically he was a young kid that wanted to be part of the rebellion against the government, because Jose, this little boy, he witnessed himself. He was terrified and witnessed the persecution of local Catholic priests. he saw the desecration of Catholic churches in his small town of Sahuayo, Michoacan. So when the Cristero War broke out between the laity and the government back in 1926, his older brother took up arms and he joined the movement, but his mom would not allow Jose to take part. She said, "You're too small, you're too young." And so the Cristero general, his name was Prudencio Mendoza, he actually said, "You're too small, young man, you can't enlist." But finally, Mendoza saw the persistence of his heart. And he said, okay, I'll let you join the rebellion, but you're going to be our flag bearer. That's what you're going to do. All you're going to do is hold the flag.
Exactly.
Because you're too small, you're too young. And Jose, the other soldiers thought he was kind of cute in a sense because he was so small and so young that they nicknamed him Tarcisius. And by the way, Tarcisius, he was a 4th century boy martyr back in Rome, back in the 4th century, who died protecting the Holy Eucharist as he was taking it from one jail cell to another. So that was his nickname, Tarcisius. So here's what happened with Jose. During heavy fighting around 1928, 2 years into the war, General Mendoza, his horse was shot down from under him, and this boy saw. And in this great act of heroism, he jumped off his horse and gave it to the general so that the battle could go on. And then he went and hid in the bushes in the forest. Well, the government troops, they found him and they captured him, and they imprisoned him in a sacristy at the local church in Sahuayo, Michoacan. And they were trying to break him down. They were beating him up, and they forced him to watch the execution of a fellow young Cristero, of a fellow young guy, to try to break his resolve from the movement. But he wouldn't give up any information, and he wouldn't break his resolve.
Praise God.
He would always say, "Long live Christ the King." And his gruesome martyrdom, here's the way it basically ended in 1928, a year before the war ended. What they did is the captain of the government of the rebellion, what he did is he cut the bottom of Jose's feet, and then he made him walk 600 yards, 6 football fields towards the cemetery. And at times, he would just also hit him with a machete, and they would push him and knock him down. And of course, Jose, walking on the exposed nerve endings of his feet, he was crying and moaning in pain, but he wouldn't give up. He would stand up and say, "Long live Christ the King." Wow. And they would tell him, "If you want to live, all you got to do is shout, 'Death to Christ the King.'" And instead of shouting, "Death to Christ the King," he would stand up and he would say, "I'm never going to give up. Long live Christ the King." When they finally reached the place of the cemetery, they stabbed him several times, 14 times with a bayonet as they hung him up like a piñata. And as they were stabbing him, he kept shouting louder and louder, "Viva Cristo Rey, long live Christ the King." Well, the government commander was so furious that they couldn't break his spirit that he pulled out his pistol and he shot Jose in the head. And he was declared a martyr, obviously immediately by the townspeople, beatified by Pope Benedict XVI in 2005, and canonized as a saint over the weekend by Pope Francis.
Jesse, thanks for sharing that story. I think it relates to us here in our country. I'm so inspired by little Joseph. I call him Jose. Okay, Jose or Joseph for the English guys. I just say this, that what he did showed me that in times of persecution, we can stand up for Christ. And I say right now we have a soft persecution that could turn into a hard persecution. If that inspired you, we'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment about little Joseph or comment on some other topics, we haven't even brought everything up yet, but our number is 888-526-2151. That's 888-526-2151 to join in. And this is the month of October, and we're praying for our country. I really would like, before we go to the break, to pray this election prayer. And again, I'm giving away the Pray the Rosary Psalms with 2 DVDs on the Rosary or CDs of the Rosary, so you can share that with your friends by calling 877-526-2151. Let's pray our election prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Lord Jesus Christ, you told us to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and to God what belongs to God. Enlighten the minds of our people in America. May we choose a president of the United States and other government officials according to your divine will. Give our citizens the courage to choose leaders of our nations who respect the sanctity of the unborn human life, the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of marital relations, the sanctity of family, the sanctity of aging. Grant us the wisdom to give you what belongs to you, our God. If we do this, as a nation, we are confident you will give us the abundance of your blessings through our elected leaders. Amen. I pray this prayer every day. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to bring something up, and I'll let Jesse talk a little bit about it. And it's the, believe it or not, the Hillary Clinton campaign chairman, John Podesta, the question about the WikiLeaks. And also I'm going to talk a little bit in this program about an exorcist and what are the signs of possession. All of that when we come back here with the Terry and Jesse show in just a quick minute. But don't hesitate to pick up the Rosary CDs, whether it's a video or an audio, because I really would like to see you encourage people to pray the Rosary. We had our conference over the weekend, and one of the gentlemen who's in the RCIA program, James, tells me that he's praying the Rosary even before he comes back to the Catholic faith. And so encourage people to do that, because I think a Rosary rally is what our country needs. That's why I'm giving you copies of it. Call 877-526-215. When we come back, I'm going to ask Jesse, what are the signs of possession? Because the the last exorcist testimony, Father Gabriel, has some interesting comments that we're going to share with you, so you don't want to turn that dial. Go to our website if you'd like to pick up some free material. If you'd like to get some downloads, it's catholicrc.org. And when we come back, we're going to cover a lot more. If you want to join in on the conversation, call us at 888-526-2151. More in a quick moment.
You're listening to The Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
Sergeant Joe Friday, just the facts, just the facts.
Amen.
Hey, talking about the Cristeros, I just want to mention one thing that people wonder, was the United States in some way, shape, or form complicit in the persecution that had happened in Mexico? Well, it wasn't so much the United States, because, we have to remember that in the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution, it gives us the right to religious liberty. But there was a lot of anti-Catholic sentiment back then in the country. Mm-hmm. As I was still saying, there's still some in some quarters, as we can see from Hillary Clinton's campaign letters. Anti-Catholicism is still here. But back in the 1920s, the anti-Catholic sentiment, it was a lot stronger. And people such as Margaret Sanger, the foundress of Planned Parenthood, she was a vigorous supporter of the persecution of the Catholic Church in Mexico. Margaret Sanger, this is a well-known fact. Also, the Ku Klux Klan here in the U.S., they were also basically vigorous supporters of the persecution that was happening in Mexico. And as a matter of fact, many people don't realize that the Ku Klux Klan, who have always considered Catholics as, quote, ignorant and superstitious, kind of like the Clinton campaign considers Catholics backwards. When I read the KKK and John Podesta, these emails, I'm saying, wow, they believe the same thing about Catholics. But the Ku Klux Klan back in the 1920s, they even went so far as to offer their 4 million members as soldiers for the Calles regime to fight against the Cristeros. And that's just a little bit of information that maybe you'd find kind of interesting. I certainly did. What about Father Gabriel Amorous? He just passed away. The Vatican, Rome, one of the top exorcists in Rome. He was there for 33 years. There's a book that's coming out called An Exorcist Explains the Demonic. It's basically his final testament. And he was an amazing man. I mean, I didn't realize this, that on September 8th, a while back ago, he received, September 8th, by the way, is the Feast of the Nativity of Our Lady. Yep. He received by the Italian Minister of Defense, he was awarded the Medal of Liberation by the Prefect of Rome for the important role that he played in the struggle against the Nazi occupation of Rome in 1943. Basically, as a teenager, Father Gabriel Amorous, he fought alongside the partisan resistance against the Nazis, and then he became a priest. And in his long life, Father Amorous confronted evil, whether this was visible evil on the streets of Italy or invisible evil through exorcism. This man was a brave man, and this book is the final testament to both this man and to his struggle of fighting evil all his life.
And I know the things you just said, Jesse, lots of you, I'm sure, have said, wow, I didn't know that about Margaret Sanger. Not many people would know that. Let's go to our calls. There's a long list of people waiting to come on. Richard in Santa Barbara, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. What's on your mind?
Hi, regarding the Crusades and
Yes.
The basic question, crimes against humanity. I seen a movie for Greater Glory.
Yes.
And and some of the information that I heard in the news and so forth, and you just said that the Ku Klux Klan and I heard somewhere else that the Freemasons were the leaders or responsible for the killings and the torture in Mexico during the crucifixion of the Catholics. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering, because of the crimes against humanity, if there's some way that the people in general can sue the Ku Klux Klan and the Freemasons for their killings and their torture. That's my basic question.
All right, Richard, let Jesse respond to you.
You'd have to ask a lawyer. You got me. I have no idea. I doubt it.
Yeah, I do
I doubt it. Those are secret societies, and they operate under the cloak of secrecy and the occult, and it's hard to find, secret societies and who's going to take responsibility for what. So it would be like chasing a shadow in my book. These are demonic organizations, and what does the devil do? How does he operate? C.S. Lewis says he operates by deception and stealth. Well, that's exactly what the Masons and the Ku Klux Klan do. They operate by deception and stealth. So good luck hauling them into court.
And the biggest thing the devil gets to do is convince people he doesn't exist, obviously from our Pew Research report. Thanks, Richard, for your call. Let's go to Anonymous in Los Angeles, and then we'll go to Vegas after that. Anonymous in L.A., welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Good morning. I love your show, and I just want to share a little testimony that, about over the weekend that, through the book that Jesse wrote, La Verdad Te Hará Libre, I was able to talk to my mom. They had the theme of hell, so I went through all the passages from the book, and I mean, it was so powerful. My auntie actually was still on the phone, so we were having this conversation. But they all were listening, and they were telling they can't believe about purgatory. But I was giving them all the passages, and
good. I
just forgot that the Jewish have a same idea about purgatory, but I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. And another thing is that I was able to talk to my brother. He lives in Texas.
Yes.
I told him, you know what, you have to start, going to church, because you never know when God's going to call us. I'm trying to purify my soul, so I'm ready to be in the presence of God. So I would never have been able to talk like this, and through you guys, motivate me, how you guys talk, and Jesse. So I am really thankful. And the only thing I feel bad is that I still have not been able to give a donation, but God willing, I will do that in the future.
Anonymous, God bless you. And Jesse will say it. Any good that man does comes from God, and he thanks him for it, brother.
I have a quick
question. Go ahead.
I have a quick question. Listen, I told my brother, listen, if you have any question about, whatever condition you are, just come back. He's not married in the church.
Oh, no.
He has children.
Sure.
But anyways, I have that. What would I do? Because they have also they might have concern about, you paid in the church for confirmation, for all other stuff like Holy Communion, things like that. What would be your recommendation?
We'll give a response right now, Anonymous. Jesse, go right ahead.
Well, if people are talking about paying stuff for church services, that basically comes in the Old Testament. Where the Old Testament believers were called to give 10% of their first fruits to God, which was to the temple. And by the way, in the New Testament, it's funny the way your brother would say that, the church is asking for all kinds of money. Well, first of all, the church is a spiritual organization and and a visible organization. We've got to flush the toilets, turn on the lights, turn on the fax machine, fire up the computers. There's secretary salaries. There's practical reasons why the church asks for money, okay? The church doesn't have George Soros' type of deep pockets. Secondly, when you look at Protestant churches, I mean, I'm not criticizing our Protestant brothers, but many of those churches, if you want to be part of their denominations, you have to give 10% of what you make. And I know that to be a fact. I'm not going to mention the denominations, but many of my friends from different denominations say you have to turn in your basically your tax form at the end of the year to the pastor so he can see how much you made and they can make sure that you've given 10% to that denomination. So I'll be honest with you. There was a study done. I don't have it in front of me. A study was done in the country as to who gives more money to their churches. Guess what? Guess which people or which religious believers give less money to their church than any other denomination? Catholics. This is a fact that's been, I can find the article. We give less money to the Catholic Church than Protestants and Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and everybody else give to their denominations. And here's what's sad. We're the true church, and we're not willing to do for the truth what the denominations do for a half-truth.
Here's what makes some people want to hit me when I say this for the last 38 years of evangelization. We Catholics want our religion cheap. And I say that to people that, you're right. So, Anonymous, like Jesse said, we need to support the mission of the church, and we support it with our good works, our finances, our time. So I thank you for your call. Folks, you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show. We are talking about some signs. What are the signs of possession? Jesse was talking a little bit from a great exorcist in Rome who just passed away, Father Amorous. And I'd like to, after this break, for sure, to talk about those 5 signs. And I promise you, I'll get Jesse to talk about that after this next break. And if you want to pick up at the break time a free DVD on praying the rosary, because this is the month of the rosary, October, you're welcome to 2 DVD CDs or CDs, either way you want to get them. I want you to help somebody to pray the rosary in this year of the rosary here. Call us at 877-526-2151.
For those of you in Phoenix, tomorrow there's going to be a special one-night screening of the movie called Convinced by Don Johnson. He's one of the weekend radio hosts here. It's going to be tomorrow night, I believe it's at 7 p.m. At the AMC Arizona Center 24. And Don Johnson's going to be there. He's a producer. He's one of the weekend radio talk show hosts. Yep. I'm going to be there as well.
Great.
I'm going to be there as well. 7 p.m., I think it's to 9 p.m. at the AMC Arizona Center. The address is 565 North 3rd Street, Phoenix. I hope to see you there to watch the one-night screening of the Catholic movie. It's called Convinced. Also about a spiritual warfare conference, October 28th and 29th, St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church Spiritual Warfare Conference. I'm going to be there speaking. So is Father Bob Guerin. He's going to be there speaking. If you want to sign up, go to Zachary King's going to be there as well. Go to srlsw.eventbrite.com. It's going to be at St. Rose of Lima. That's October 28th and 29th. You can go to my website if you want to find out the information. It's going to be a great conference. I'll be there. Father Bob Guerin, Zachary King will be there as well.
You got it, folks. Don't forget, this is the month of the Rosary. You want to get some CDs for free? You just pay the shipping. Call 877-526-2151. If you want the DVDs to show your family the beautiful sacred art, you call that same number. Or go online to catholicrc.org or call 877-526-2151. We'll be back in a quick moment.
This is Bishop David O'Connell, and you're listening to the Terry and Jesse Show at Immaculate Heart Radio.
You're listening to The Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio. Want to join the conversation? Call 888-526-2151. Now here's Terry and Jesse.
We're not right versus left, we're right versus wrong, and truth has no color. That's the motto of the Terry and Jesse Show.
Amen.
I know a lot of people wonder, they hear the word possession, and they're saying, okay, well, what are the signs of possession? And the Catholic Church has actually written about this back in 1614, so it's almost about 450 years ago. And the Catholic Church gives several basic criteria for determining possession. The church says this. It's in the ritual. It says, signs of possession may be the following. 1, ability to speak with some facility in a strange tongue or to understand it when spoken by another. That's number 1. Number 2, the faculty of divulging future and hidden events. 3, displays of power which are beyond the subject's age and natural condition. That would be called preternatural strength. And 4, various other conditions which, when taken as a whole, build up the evidence. The most obvious signs of possession, however, which is presumed by these rules, is a distinct aversion to the sacred. A distinct aversion to the sacred. And keep in mind that these criteria, they're not meant to be exhaustive. In other words, this is not meant to be an exhaustive list to diagnose demonic possession, but these with absolute certainty will be found. And again, the rules that say that the various signs are to be taken together as a whole, basically that's the judgment that's used by priests to make a determination. Let's go to the phones.
Let's go to Anonymous in Las Vegas. Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Hello, how are you doing?
We're blessed. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, thank you. And
thanks
for the show. Thanks for all your help, your answers and everything. Okay. I just have a question. I have to go off the air for that. Mm-hmm. I've been wondering about what's happening with the priests in Mexico, and I haven't heard much of it in the news or in the church. So,
yeah, about why are so many being killed in Mexico? That's a great question, and we hear it all the time.
Anonymous, I'll tell you why. Because when you read the Mexican Constitution written in 1917, it has a lot of anti-Catholic decrees in there that were signed in there by President Plutarco Calles. The Catholic Church in Mexico has basically limited to no religious liberty. Okay, Catholicism in Mexico can only be practiced within the boundaries of the parish. Outside of the parish, Catholicism there's no expression of Catholicism allowed. Priests aren't allowed to wear the Roman collar. They're not allowed to make political statements. Now, why is it that many priests have been getting killed recently? I'll tell you why. Because when a Mexican priest, one of these brave priests, when they start speaking out against the denial of religious liberty, and then when they start speaking out against the cartels and the evil that comes with the cartels, extortion, kidnapping, prostitution, sex trafficking, when they start speaking against these evils, that's what happens. They get killed. And that happens quite readily. These priests are martyrs. They're heroes.
Yep.
Because they're speaking from their heart about the evil that's happening in Mexico, and many of them are willing to sacrifice their life as Christ did for us.
I hope that helped you on that. Thanks again, Anonymous.
Okay, well, I just have one more thing.
Sure.
So shouldn't we in the church be getting together, like to have prayer, some kind of prayers for them? Because we are all one church. So that was my only, maybe it should be brought to our minds that we should be praying for them, because it's happening there. It could happen here someday, too.
Yeah, it's happening in the Middle East.
I agree, Anonymous. Yeah. I agree. It's not only happening in Mexico, it's happening all over with Catholics, lay people and Catholic priests. I can tell you this. In the Spanish Catholic radio stations, they talk about this a lot because, again, they're up on the news in Mexico and Latin America, and I do Spanish radio as well, so I'm well aware of what you're talking about. But Terry, go ahead.
I want to change gears for a second, and you're welcome to call in on any of the questions and comments. But I'd like to talk about what Bill Donohue's comments from the Catholic League in regards to the WikiLeaks revelations. And Jesse, why don't you share a little bit about WikiLeaks and how George Soros, who's one of the most influential donors to dissident and anti-Catholic groups, is behind so much of this anti-Catholic material. Tell the story, because it's a story that should be told.
Here's what we see. We see John Podesta, the campaign chairman of Hillary Clinton,
Mm-hmm.
and we see some of Hillary Clinton's other staff. There's a connection.
Yeah.
They're being funded by a billionaire called George Soros.
Yep.
Who is an atheist, very anti-Catholic. He's a liberal progressive Democrat. And George Soros, what he's doing is he's the money behind Hillary Clinton's campaign. And John Podesta and these other dissident Catholics or progressive Catholics that work for Hillary Clinton, what they're trying to do is they're trying to start a revolution within the Catholic Church. That's what they're trying to do. They're calling it a Catholic spring, a Catholic spring movement. Just like what we saw in the Middle East with all these riots and anarchy
in Egypt,
and people overthrowing their governments and killing their government leaders and stuff. Hillary Clinton's campaign, we know this based on the WikiLeaks, that John Podesta, who's the most influential man, and he's running this operation for George Soros, they're trying to manipulate public opinion against the Catholic Church, and they're trying to plant the seeds of revolution so that Catholics will turn against our leaders. They want to subvert the Catholic Church, and again, they're calling it, there needs to be a Catholic spring. I don't know about you, but this is evil. This is evil that a political party would use the money of a billionaire who hates the Catholic Church to try to foment the seeds of hate and rebellion and anarchy in the Catholic Church so that we can turn against our leaders, our bishops, and our Pope. And that's why Bill Donahue from the Catholic League, he's demanding that John Podesta should be fired right now. We know all about this. And I'm a member of the Catholic League. I've been a member for 20 years. Bill Donahue is the president of the Catholic League, and we point out people that are trying to destroy the Catholic Church. And so we're calling for John Podesta, the campaign chairman of Hillary Clinton, to be fired because we know he's trying to subvert the Catholic Church.
And the evidence is indisputable. Both of the groups called Catholic and Alliance and Catholics United were created by Podesta and funded by Soros for the express purpose of staging a revolt within the Catholic Church. Thanks be to God, Archbishop Chaput in 2008. This has been going on for years, folks, which is coming out now. The bishop said, then of Denver, now of Philadelphia, accused both entities of doing a disservice to the Catholic Church. If you want to make a comment about that, maybe you didn't know that, but now you do. So again, we're high information Catholics here at the Terry and Jesse Show. We're not right versus left. We're right versus wrong. If you want to join in on this conversation, call us at 888-526-2151. That's 888-526-2151. For those who didn't, just came in, Jesse gave a very beautiful story of a 14-year-old boy who was just made a saint, little Joseph, little Jose. I have pictures of him in my hands of where he's laying, in the casket with his feet being cut up from the government, and he would not deny his faith. He died saying, "Long live Christ the King." You should check this out. It's on all over the internet. You can go to our Twitter account and get all of those articles about that. Jesse, being of Mexican descent, didn't you say earlier that your parents' town was right next to this young boy?
Yeah, the town where this young boy, where his tomb and his bones remain, it's called Sahuayo. That's the city. The state is called Michoacan. My parents are from the next town over. They're from Puruándiro, Michoacan. So they're from the same state. They're just from, it's just like saying Covina and West Covina.
Got it.
And again, he's rallied bravery and courage with a lot of Hispanic Mexican Catholics.
He should.
Because they've seen that this is what it means to be a Catholic. It means that you may be asked to lay down your life, and he's the best example in modern times of. And in fact, there's so many examples. I mean, today at Holy Mass was the feast day of Saint Ignatius of Antioch. When you look at Saint Ignatius of Antioch, you look at Saint Jose Rio Sanchez. Again, 2,000 years ago, and 50 years ago, we have the same thing happening. Catholics saying, no, I'm not going to deny my Catholic faith. I'm going to stand up for Jesus. I'm going to speak the truth in love, come what may. I don't care what happens.
Amen.
And that's the history of our beautiful church, is that Catholics, true Catholics, are willing to put their life down for the truth of Jesus and his holy gospel.
And I'll say it this way, Terry, Jesse, are you willing to lay your life down for Jesus Christ? Here's what Blessed Titus said. He who wants to win the world for Christ must have the courage to come in conflict with it. That says it all. And right now, there's a conflict going on, good and evil. St. Pope John Paul II said that back in 1976, and he was prophetic, because right now we're up against good and evil. The culture of life, the culture of death. If you'd like to comment on that, or you have a question about any of the topics today, Or, like we said, are you aware that 57% of the people in America believe the devil lurks? And I would say if they don't believe in the devil, then they don't believe in God. They act like God doesn't exist. That's our government right now, in my opinion. They're acting like God doesn't have a say in anything. And I say, no, I'm going to stand up as a Christian, a committed Christian, and voice my opinion and my vote for Christ and no one else, because it's either Christ or chaos. That's my take. If you'd like to join in, the number is 888-526-2151. I'm supporting these rosary rallies all over the country right now. Pray the daily rosary with your family. I'll give you a DVD, Pray the Rosary with the Psalms, using Sacred Art. It's a $25 DVD with two sets, two of them. You just call 877-526-2151. It's yours. Call it.
John Podesta, the campaign chief for Hillary Clinton, WikiLeaks has released emails exchanging John Podesta's exchanges with Sandy Newman, who's the founder and president of Voices for Progress. They're an activist group promoting liberal causes. I'm going to read to you in the next segment the exchange between John Podesta and Sandy Newman as it relates to destroying the Catholic Church.
This is Dr. Scott Hahn, and you are listening to the Terry and Jesse Show on Immaculate Heart Radio.
Thank you, Dr. Hahn. As I told you, I am going to share with you an exchange between John Podesta, basically the campaign chief for Hillary Clinton, as he writes to Sandy Newman, founder and president of Voices for Progress. Here's what he says, quote, this is about his hopes to taking over the church in the United States. This whole controversy with the bishops opposing contraceptive coverage, even though 98% of Catholic women and their conjugal partners have used contraception, has me thinking there needs to be a Catholic spring in which Catholics themselves demand the end of a Middle Ages dictatorship and the beginning of a little democracy and respect for gender equality in the Catholic Church, close quote. The most concerning part about John Podesta's email is his reference to practical steps that he's taken in his plot to take over the Catholic Church and subvert her teachings to his liberal agenda. In his email, he refers to his foundation called Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good, which, by the way, has been denounced by the U.S. bishops. Yep. And he says that Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good, funded by George Soros, he says the purpose for this is to foment a rebellion among Catholics who reject the Church's teachings, a rebellion like the Arab Spring rebellions of the Middle East. And here's what he says in his email. He says this: regarding an opening for a Catholic spring, just thinking, we created Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good to organize for a moment like this, but I think it lacks the leadership to do so now. Likewise, Catholics United. Like most spring movements, I think this one will have to be bottom up, close quote.
Wow.
So what's he saying? He wants to get lay people to rebel against the magisterium, because he calls the magisterium middle-age dictatorship. John Podesta is showing complete disrespect towards the magisterium of the Catholic Church. He's hoping to foment rebellion amongst lay people over the Church's teaching on sexuality and contraception. And what he's trying to do is basically he's trying to foment the spirit of anarchy within the Catholic Church. This is plain evil, and we have to call this out.
Just the facts, Jesse. Let's go. We got 4 or 5 people waiting on hold. Let's see if we can get them in before the end of the hour. Lowry in Henderson, Nevada. Welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Blessed, man. How about yourself? Good?
Good. My name's Lori.
Oh, Lori. I got Lowry. Okay, Lori, God love you. What's on your mind?
Okay, I was just listening to the radio show, and I agree about Hillary, especially because of abortion. Sure. I'm against her.
Sure.
But what do we do on the other hand? Because I'm not for Trump either, because of how he is also. So what are we supposed to do?
It's a great question, and we're at a dilemma. I'm going to let Jesse answer it, and then I'll give my 2 cents. Great question.
Okay.
Well, as soon as I find anything in the Trump campaign speaking against the Catholic Church, we're going to be all over it. And I haven't found anything in the Trump campaign that speaks against the Catholic Church. On the contrary, Trump has actually hired 33 of the top Catholic advisors, people like Rick Santorum, Senator from Kansas, what's his name, Terry? Senator Brownback.
Yep, Brownback.
He's hired Tom Moynihan. Yep. I'm actually impressed as to the Catholics, the caliber of Catholics that he's hired to advise him. And he's also, again, he wrote a letter to CatholicVote.org, which is a Catholic organization that helps people get the vote out, Catholics. And he basically said, there's an open letter on the internet. He says, I'm going to protect Catholics' religious liberty. They won't have to worry about the Little Sisters of the Poor getting sued or EWTN getting sued by the Obama administration. He says, I'm going to eradicate any lawsuit against the Catholic Church over Obamacare. So when you find something that he says against the Catholic Church, let us know and we'll put it out.
And Lori, let me just throw one more thing. I can't tell you who to vote for. I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you, vote with your Catholic mindset, your moral mindset, and ask yourself, if someone can be in the presidency, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm holding my nose when I vote this year. What? I told you. I am but I asked myself, who's going to move the football closer to the first down? And let me tell you right now, I'm not real happy with what we have the options on. I'm not. But I'm not telling you who to vote for, but who is going to make that ball move closer to Catholic principles? And I'm convinced I know who that is. I can't say who it is, but I'm just giving you my take. What's your thoughts? I'm all ears.
But what about him being unfaithful, like in his marriage? That concerns me too.
Yeah, a lot of the presidents, and me too, and a lot of the presidents in the United States.
Half of the presidents have been unfaithful.
It's been sick, immoral.
Yeah, so I mean,
I agree with you. That's horrible.
Here's what I would say when bring up the past like that. I would just basically, Jesus Christ says in John chapter 8, verse 11, he says, he who has no sin cast the first stone. I'm not really concerned what these presidents do behind closed doors. That's between them and God. What I want to know is, are they going to keep the country safer? Are they going to protect the Catholic Church's religious liberty? Are they going to move towards the right direction in stopping abortion by appointing Supreme Court justices that respect the rule of law? Yeah. That's what I care about. If I was worried about what John F. Kennedy did and Senator Edwards did, et cetera, and Bill Clinton did, we could talk about that till the sun goes down.
Right.
I don't care about that. I just basically want to see the person that's going to move the football forward to the touchdown, which is who is going to be somebody who advocates for more of a culture of life versus a culture of death.
And Lori, can I leave you on one last thought? Last time I looked, Jesus and Mary aren't running. You know what I mean? We're not going to have that. That's why it's such an imperfect decision. I mean, we don't have a saint running. And so I hope that helped you in somewhat way, because a lot of us are asking the same question you're asking. So thank you for taking the courage to call us and ask that question. Okay?
Thank you. Have a great day.
Hey, we've said we're too blessed to be stressed, too anointed to be disappointed. And if hope was money, we'd be billionaires. Let's go to Anonymous. I've got a couple more minutes. Let's get as many calls as we can. Anonymous in California, welcome to the Terry and Jesse Show.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. How are you doing?
We're blessed. How about yourself?
Okay.
What can I answer?
I have a question, Terry. Is it true that I heard about WikiLeaks that Hillary wants to open the borders between America and Mexico, and what the consequences we will have because of it?
All right, great question. Thank you for your question. We just have a couple minutes left, and we've got 4 or 5 people waiting on hold. But Jess, your thoughts on that? Have you? Is there a statement by Mrs. Clinton on that issue of the border?
I don't know of any. So I plead ignorance. I haven't read anything. But I know somebody also asked a question about Jose Rios.
Oh, yeah. They have a question real quick. Is his body incorrupt? That's the next question.
Yeah, because I want to talk about him more than Hillary Clinton. Sure. According to articles on the Internet, Jose Sanchez Rios' body is incorrupt. You can look at his body on the Internet, this young 14-year-old boy, and he looks like he's asleep. His body is completely intact. And once again, that's one of the signs of sanctity. And that's something that makes me proud to be Catholic.
Let's
go to the next phone call.
Before we do that, Jesse, I have those pictures right in my hands with the wounds from his feet, and he's looks like he has some little thing in his hand. You're right. It's amazing. So if you go to our Twitter account, you can get that. Let's see.
Okay, Terry, I got the lady's question. Okay, I just read her question. She said, "Is Hillary Clinton want open borders?" The answer to that is yes. She wants open borders. She wants what we would call full amnesty. And that's her position. It's right on her website. I just researched that. Good. So that's yes to your question.
All right.
Go ahead.
Jesse, we're wrapped up. We've only got another minute and a half. I want to just say, if you want Jesse Romero to come to your event, just go to jesseromero.com. I'm going to be up in San Jose on Saturday for a pro-life conference with Archbishop Cordeleon. I'll tell you more about it if you just go to my website or go to the CatholicRC.org. It's got my schedule there. Love to have you support the pro-life work with the Archbishop. He's one of my heroes in the church. And if you want to get that the DVDs on praying the Rosary with the Psalms by Matthew Arnold using Sacred Art, or the audio CDs, I want to give them out because I want a Rosary rally in every city. And this is how it's done. Many times sharing the Rosary CDs with people. Call 877-526-2151 or go online to CatholicRC.org. Yes.
Bishop Tobin just posted on Facebook the following quote: "Catholics vote pro-life, never for any candidate or party that promotes abortion." That's Bishop Tobin from, I believe he's from Providence,
New England,
Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, thank you very much. Also, the St. Rose of Lima Spiritual Warfare Conference, that's October 28th and 29th at St. Rose of Lima Church. If you want to go there, just go to my website. You can find out more information on that conference. Also, tomorrow, Don Johnson, he's the weekend host, radio host, and myself, we're going to be at the AMC Arizona Center, and it's going to be a one-night screening of a Catholic movie called Convinced. It's a movie of Catholic converts coming into the church, high-information people becoming Catholics. It starts at 7 o'clock. It's a one-night screening, AMC Arizona Center. You can find information for that on my website as well.
We had the Biblical Studies Conference over the weekend. If you want to get MP3s or CDs, it was great with Dr. Maza, Johnny Romero, and Mary Danielle. Call 877-526-2151. God love you.
I think we're still on.
Oh, I'm sorry. We still got another minute. Sorry,
let me mention.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Let me mention something. I just came out with a book. It's called Questions and Answers on Marijuana.
Yep.
If it's a small pithy book. It's 50 questions and answers on marijuana.
Endorsed
and
by,
I answer. Yeah, I endorsed by Father Donald Calloway,
yep,
and the top narcotics officer in Los Angeles. It's a book that answers every single question on why marijuana is wrong, why it's evil, why it's immoral. If you want that booklet, go to my website. You can order it, jesseromero.com, jesseromero.com. Let me ask you a question. Do you have any marijuanos in your family? You have any dopers in your family? And you need to get my book.
Absolutely.
This is the question of all millennials are asking, and I answer every single millennial question.
May God richly bless you and your family.